Hello everyone, this is Nickredace coming at you with a brand new video. This is going to be the first time I'll be using this new layout for how I'm going to do deck profiles. So, at the bottom corner we have pretty much the entire deck profile, and I was just going to go over a few of the key cards, because this is pretty much the Zombie Mk5 deck mixed in with some vampire cards. This isn't a pure vampire card, because we are missing a few of their things like Vampire Retainer and all that. But we're just going to jump into it straight in. So, some of the new cards are Vampire the Red Baron. He is a level 6 zombie dark monster with 2400 attack, 1000 defense. And his effect is once per turn, you can pay 1000 life points, then target one monster your opponent controls, one other vampire monster you control, switch control of those monsters. At the end of the battle phase, if this card destroys any monster by battle, you can special summon that card from the graveyard to your side of the field. So he works kind of like a mixture of Nickredace, except you have to use one of your own monsters, and Red Eye's Zombie Necrodragon. The only reason he's only one in this deck profile is you're really not going to use him too much. He's good, but he's not that good. But he has decent attack, his effect is pretty good, especially when you use something like Zombie Sucker, and you just switch it, then destroy one of your opponent's, that monster, then you summon that monster back on your side of the field, get free damage. Pretty good. The next one is more of an older card, Vampire Duke. Vampire Duke is 2000 attack, zombie dark level 5 monster. Its effect is when it's normal summoned, you can target one dark vampire monster in your graveyard, special summon it in defense position. And when it is special summoned, you can declare one card type, monster spell trap. Your opponent sends one of that card type from the deck to the graveyard. Once per turn, this card cannot be used as XYZ material, except for a dark monster. Which doesn't really matter, because we're only going to be using it for dark monsters anyway. He's pretty good. The reason I have him at 2 and not Scourge is because of his special summon from graveyard ability, and because it doesn't require you to pay life points. That being said, let's go straight on the Scourge, who has slightly more attack at 2200 attack, 2200 defense. He's a level 6 zombie dark monster, and its effect is, if this card is normal or special summoned, pay 1000 life points. Then target one vampire monster in your graveyard, except himself, special summon it, but it cannot attack this turn. You can only use his effect once per turn. At the end of the battle phase, if this card destroyed any monsters by battle, special summon them from the graveyard. So, his effect, very similar to Red Baron's. Now you might be like, well Nick, his effect allows him to special summon his vampire card when he's summoned normally or special summoned. And that's true, but you have to pay 1000 life points. Which might not be a big problem, but if you do that constantly, without things like Vampire Domain to give you more life points, I don't like risking it. Of course, we have 3 Vampire Fraulines, which if you watched Zombie Mk5 deck profile, it's pretty much a staple. Then we go on to some new add-on cards. We have Vampire's Desire, which is a normal spell card, and its effect is target one face-up monster you control, send one vampire from your deck to the graveyard with a different level from that monster. If you do, the targeted monster becomes a level of that sent monster in the graveyard to the end of this turn. Pretty much you're going to use that effect just to send vampires to the graveyard. But it's also useful for setting up your rank 5 plays. His second effect, which you'd activate one of these effects, is target one vampire monster in the graveyard, send one monster you control to the graveyard, and if you do, special summon the targeted monster. Pretty much what I like to do is activate one of these, send a vampire to the graveyard, activate the second one, special summon the vampire to the graveyard. But you do you. Next we have Vampire's Awakening, special summon one vampire monster from your deck, but destroy it during the end phase. You can only activate one per turn. Again, I usually use that for the rank 5 plays. Again, since it's a zombie deck, it being sent to the graveyard isn't really a massive hurt on the deck. Everything else here is pretty much the same as the Mk5 deck until we get into Vampire Domination. When a spell trap or monster effect is activated while you control a vampire monster, negate the activation, and if you do, destroy that card. Then, if it was a monster, gain life points equal to its original attack. The reason I only have it as a 2 of instead of a 3 of is mostly because it's a dead draw if you don't have a vampire. Of course, you can get vampires out very easily in this deck, but it's still a dead draw if you don't have them. So, major changes did happen in the Mk5 deck as well as the vampire variant in the Extradeck. So we have Omega, Zeta, Beals, Necro, Squire Saga, and then Savior and Sucker. The new additions come with Dark End Dragon. Dark End Dragon is a level 8 Dark Dragon, 2600 attack, 2100 defense, 1 tuner, 1 more non-tuner dark monsters, which is a little difficult if you don't know what you're doing. Once per turn, target one monster your opponent controls. Dark End Dragon loses 500 attack points and defense points, and then you destroy that monster. Or not even destroy, you just send it to the graveyard. So technically this would work on Abeles, because you're sending it to the graveyard, not destroying it. Next we have Scrap Dragon, 1 tuner, 1 non-tuner. It is Earth Dragon, level 8, with 2800 attack, 2000 defense, and its ability is once per turn, target 1 card you control, 1 card your opponent controls, destroy them. Pretty much you can summon him every turn to have him destroy himself if you wanted to. Destroy the back row. So this card, along with another card a little bit later on, were made to destroy the enemy back row. We do have Twin Twister, and we do have Swallow Slash, but it's always good to have that next option to get rid of that enemy back row. Next we have Blood Misfit, which is Fiend, level 8 Dark monster with 2800 attack, 1300 defense. Normal, 1 tuner, 1 more non-tuner. And once per turn during your opponent's standby phase, inflict 300 damage to your opponent for each card your opponent controls, and each time your opponent sets a monster, inflict 300 damage to your opponent. So this is made for to work against stall decks, which happens somewhat frequently. When you go against an enemy stall deck, they're going to do everything to stop you. Now that's also why I had the back row destruction, because we already have the banishing from Balrog, but just a little added damage to finish them off. The next card we have, which is completely new to me before I was looking up for new extra deck cards, Pyrolysis Slayer Magma. Is a fire level 8 synchro monster with 2500 attack and 0 defense. Requires 1 tuner, 1 more non-tuners, normal. And when this card destroys a monster by battle, you can target up to 2 cards your opponent controls, destroy them. And then the rest of it doesn't matter because I don't have any Math Mech spell traps. That was really good to me, especially since you can use Vampire Sucker to summon a very weak monster, then have Magma run over said monster, and then just pop their back row, or if they have a lot of other cards on the field, pop the other monsters. Very good. Now we're going to move back onto the more vampire-esque part of this variant, which is Vampire, Shiridan, whatever the fuck. 2 or more level 6 monsters. If you use monsters with a level that is owned by your opponent for the XYZ summon of this card, treat it as a level 6. Once per turn, you can detach 1 material from this card, then target 1 card your opponent controls, send it to the graveyard. Once per turn, monster card or cards is sent from the field to the graveyard by a card effect, or monsters destroyed by battle and sent to your opponent's graveyard. Detach 1 material, special summon 1 of those monsters. He's not the best, though he has decent stats at 2600 attack, 1000 defense. He's not the best, especially since his effect is pretty much you destroy a card your opponent controls by detaching 1, and then if you've destroyed an opponent's monster in any way, special summon that monster. Or you can special summon that monster. But it does work kind of with the zombie feel of the deck, since with Zombie Mk5, pretty much the whole thing is if your opponent does have a strong boss monster, you can easily destroy the boss monster and then summon it on your side of the field. That's what Nickredace Necro does. Pretty much whatever you can do once you get Zombie World onto the field. But he's decent. He's only 2 level 6 monsters, and since it says monsters are owned by your opponent, you can easily just summon an opponent's lesser monster and be like, oh, I summoned your weak level 4, but now it counts as level 6, and you only need 1 vampire. Then we move on to more of the undead. How do I say this? When I was playing this deck, I figured out that vampires, zombies, and their ability to just be constantly resummoned through their own effects, pretty good. And that brings out Crimson Knight Vampire Bram. Pretty old card. It is a zombie dark rank 5 card with 2500 attack. It requires 2 level 5 zombie monsters. Not the hardest thing to get out. And its effect is you can detach 1 material from this card, then target 1 monster in your opponent's graveyard, special summon that to your side field. But only that monster can attack for the rest of this turn. Not too bad. The best part is its secondary effect. By the way, you can only use that effect once per turn. Secondary effect says once per turn during your standby phase of the next turn after this card you controlled was destroyed by your opponent's card and sent to the graveyard, special summon it in defense position. That means if this card is destroyed by battle or card effect, no matter what, special summon it during the standby phase, which is very similar to Balrog. Now, the difference is Balrog can only be summoned once per turn. So that means if I have 2 Balrogs in the graveyard, I can only summon 1 of them that turn. Next turn, though, I can summon the second one. With Vampire Bram, if I have both of them get destroyed and sent to the graveyard, that standby phase, they're getting summoned again. And also it says once per turn during the standby phase after this card was destroyed. So that means if it was destroyed during your turn, your opponent's standby phase, they're summoned back again. Now, they do have 0 defense, and they are summoned in defense position, which means you're just going to get easily killed again, but it's still 2-card wall that is constantly recycling. So I thought that was pretty good. Next we go on to Shark Fortress, which is Fish, Dark, rank 5 monster with 2400 attack, 1800 defense. Requires 2 level 5 monsters, again, not hard to get out. Your opponents cannot target monsters for attacks except for this one, and once per turn you can detach 1 material from this card, target one face-up monster you control, it can make a second attack during each battle phase, this turn. That's very oddly said. It's very rare that you have more than one battle phase. But the main reason for that is for its first effect, which means your opponent can't target other monsters for attacks. That mixed with Fraulein means that your opponent has to run into this, and then Fraulein can boost its attack super high, and that was pretty good. And then of course we have the standard Savior and Vampire Sucker. So that's pretty much the deck profile, and again, the Extradeck, with the exception of the XYZ cards, has also been updated for Zombies Mk5, mostly because it gives you more variety of stopping your opponent. Also, I didn't see a need to have another Zombie Necrodragon, due to the way that zombies work, and you're constantly summoning things back from the graveyard. And even if it gets banished, you have Omega to then bring back the banished cards. And if Omega gets banished, you have Burial from Different Dimension to bring Omega back. Also, it's very hard to get Omega banished due to the fact that he can bounce. You don't really need multiples of the cards. The only reason cards like Vampire Bram and Bellarok are doubled in the deck is because they can actually be useful doubled in the deck. You can get 2 Bellaroks on the field. You can get 2 Brams on the field. And the utility of cards like Dark End Dragon, it's like, oh yeah, it loses its attack and defense. But then I can, like, pop it for something stupid, and then summon it back with full attack and defense. There's no reason I wouldn't, use that. So anyway, we're just going to go to the battles now and show you how it works.